So, trying something a little different today. I just got this new camera, and I thought I might go around and walk with it and talk to it while I'm on a little bit of a walk here. I've had something on my mind ever since I did that last UFO/extraterrestrial video about walk-ins and everything. And something I've been thinking about is that if there were an invasion of the planet or the solar system, the universe, wherever we exist here, would it be better for the invading force to totally destroy everything, kill all life, destroy the infrastructure, and then start anew? Or would it be easier, more beneficial for them to take over an already existing game? If you want to use the car analogy, a better one for this would be to use like a video game analogy where, say for instance, someone's playing a game and they've already built their character, they've already built up an infrastructure, they've collected a bunch of items, weapons, and whatever video game stuff, and somebody comes along who knows how to play that game. Rather than starting the game from scratch, is it easier to just take the controller from someone and start playing their game? And then with this analogy, would it be easier to come do a bunch of walk-ins and hijack all the bodies, or a good portion of them? I don't know how many, but come along, invade, and just take over the predominant life form on the planet, which here it's this human composite being. And that would be much easier than killing off all the bodies, destroying the infrastructure. If you just pirated, if they were to just pirate the entire game, just like the analogy of taking the video game controller away from someone. So this ties into the whole needlecraft concept. I know that the product within the needlecraft contains mRNA, right? Synthetic mRNA. Now, to me, that seems like something's trying to come along and alter the DNA or alter humans somehow. And if one were to invade a planet and take over the bodies, I'd imagine you'd have to do some kind of subtle, or maybe not so subtle, but some sort of alteration to the genetic makeup of the predominant life form on the planet to make it harmonious. Sorry. To make it work with your way of doing things, and if your game in the universe is to go around and be an interdimensional body pirate, and you've been doing this for a while, I would imagine you would have the technology to be able to take, the DNA of any life form in the universe and, just tweak it just a little bit to make it work better for you. And so that's what I'm wondering with the whole needlecraft thing, because last year they said that there was this big old thing where everyone was dying, and people were dropping dead in the streets and all of that, and none of us had friends or family or friends of friends or friends of friends of friends that knew anyone that was falling over in the street. We didn't have, like in Monty Python, a guy going down the street going, "Bring out your dead!" Ting! We didn't have any of that going on. But then somehow the social engineering worked enough to get people convinced to get the needlecraft. Convinced people that people were falling over in the street, reaching and holding on to light posts and stuff as they're falling over, and all of that. It just took a couple videos and a couple, like Thomas talked about the military trucks in the street somewhere. It just takes like one little thing like that for everyone to lose their fucking mind. And you just put the right words behind that, and you've got everyone convinced. And you got all these people convinced. I live here in the Seattle area, and man, Everybody here took the damn needlecraft, got the product injected into them. And so now that that's happening, you've got a good, I've heard something like close to half of people have had the needlecraft. There's the one, there's I guess a couple companies that do one that's got 2, and then there's the other one that starts with a J, and then there's another J, and that company that you put those 2 letters together, they just have the 1. And I've known a few people that have gotten the 1 injection, and they've just been having that whole mental lapse thing of driving somewhere and ending up in the wrong place, or weird things like that. Just total lapses of awareness. And is that, I've heard, when we talk about people having walk-in experiences, there might be one driver in the body, so to speak, but there could be a secondary driver coming along that's starting to phase into the body, starting to pick up the wheel, so to speak. And there would be momentary lapses like that where, who's in control, who's driving the car. And this whole idea that maybe the needlecraft is there to make it more possible for the invaders to take over these bodies and make them their own. They would just need to do a little bit of alteration, I would imagine. To us it would look like a very small alteration, but I would imagine what's actually going on the cellular level, on the DNA level, is actually quite sizable. I've interacted with a few people here in Washington State, in the Seattle area, that work in the biotech industry, and they talk about CRISPR. For any of you who are familiar with CRISPR, any of you who are not familiar with it, that's some weird ass software for editing genes, and people talk about it so casually as if they're talking about freaking Microsoft Word or something. But just this idea of so casually talking about altering genes within software, just no big deal. And so that whole idea that on the outside things might not look like they've been tremendously changed, but on maybe a cellular level or on a DNA level, things are quite a bit different if you were to actually look at things. The amount of time and consideration that would take to actually change some of these things in a natural evolution. I would imagine, our DNA, adapts whenever something, say the planet's gravity gets significantly decreased or increased, or the atmosphere density changes. I would imagine our DNA has little sensors or whatever, something within our body has sensors that tells the DNA, oh shit, the planet's gravity just tripled, or reduced by 1.5, reduced by a factor of 1.5, and we have to alter the DNA to make the bones different, and it might take a couple generations or maybe not even, for the DNA to go, oh shit, strengthen the femurs or lighten up the femurs, make the skull a little thicker, reinforce the eye sockets better, or nope, we need to shed some of this, make the bones thinner because gravity's less, and that kind of thing. And I would imagine there's a natural thing that's inbuilt to our DNA that does that. Now, these people with CRISPR and these biotech people who are fucking around with things that they have no real understanding of, they get that it has a function, but they don't quite understand what it means to be human. They still think that they are that DNA, that they are a consciousness, that they don't even understand that they have consciousness. They think that they are the consciousness. They don't get that that they're a soul or a spirit or whatever you want to call it, a being inhabiting a body, operating it through a mind, not the body itself. They think that they're that walking bag of DNA. So they don't quite understand what they're fucking with when they're going around and changing the DNA. And probably because someone at the top is just giving them the orders, or hey, go in and change this and this and this, and that's your task for the day, and they do that, and they can go brag to their friends about making $100,000 a year, playing around with CRISPR and genetically altering things. And So again, going back to where I'm talking about from the top, that this idea that, if there was an invasion, it would be a body snatcher type thing where they'd come in, take control of human bodies. They wouldn't necessarily need to come in, with nuts and bolts ships and come down and, like Independence Day style, the movie, and kick a bunch of ass and everything, or have their asses kicked because, like in the 2006 War of the Worlds, the thing that ultimately they succumb to is, the bacteria in that, and they start to die off because they don't have an immune system built up around here. So why not inherit the immune system? We've been evolving here for however long, and we've built up all of this. If there were invaders, they'd probably be pirates of some sort. They wouldn't have the whatever to make games of their own, so they just go throughout the universe or throughout wherever and pick up someone else's game that they've been playing, because they themselves aren't capable of creating a game for themselves. People, when they talk about psychopaths and stuff like that, the whole idea that they themselves aren't capable of creating, and the idea of creating something novel and artistic to them, they wouldn't be able to do it. It's just foreign to them. They can replicate something. They can show them, like as a musician, I've interacted with a few of these types, where they can mimic things really well, but they can't come up with a unique idea of their own. They can copy a few things at a time, and do those things, copies, really well, surprisingly well. They can pick it up really quickly. But the idea of asking them to start something of their own, can't do it. So I'd imagine this interdimensional force, if it were here and it were snatching up bodies and using the needlecraft, it wouldn't be able to create its own game. It would have to go around and steal someone else's game. So anyway, those are just my thoughts about this. It's been rattling around in my mind ever since I put out the UFO video. I wanted to try out this new camera here. I think I like it. We'll see how this looks. I'll throw it on the computer, and hopefully my face isn't too big and you're not looking at my nostrils the whole time. So, all right, take it easy, everyone, and we'll see you around on the next one.